For example, if I were to get married to a man, but if I was to... Unfortunately, I still find men attractive, but we'll see how long that's going to last. But if I were to get married to a man, I would only be marrying a man who is putting land, properties, and assets in my name. Oh, sorry, what's funny? You know what, that's interesting that we're laughing about that, because it sounds ridiculous, right? The idea that a woman would want security when we know that men are unreliable. Not only are they unreliable, they are a woman's apex predator. That's right, the man you're laying with could kill you. And so when we are encouraging women to get married, we are encouraging women to step 1 inch closer to our death. Unless we are encouraging the women we are emboldening to get married to enter this decision with their best interest at heart. Yes, it is controversial to talk about money and assets and land and properties when discussing marriage, because we're taught to follow the distraction of love, romantic love. What about love? Well, this is all about love. The man who loves me will make sure that I am secure for the rest of my life. But unfortunately, most marriages are not structured or approached in that way. Women are taught to approach marriage from a place of leading with emotion. Again, that's to distract us. Because if we put our emotions aside and focus on the logic and the rationale and the reality of how will this benefit me, most women will not marry men. We will be in commune with each other and leave the men to fend for themselves.
Welcome back to the channel. You see that I'm all about marriage. You can see that right there on the screen. And I always try to find interesting videos that we can talk about. So before I get too deep, I kind of got to do a little bit of, recap, so that people can kind of understand what I'm talking about in this particular video. So the very first thing that I did want to talk about is a little bit about personality. All right. And a lot of people feel that women come in one flavor, and that is not true. All right. So if you looked at something like Myers-Briggs, there are 16 unique personalities within Myers-Briggs, all right? And those are both for men and women. So you will find women in all 16 personalities. On this channel, and I have gone into these things at length to let you understand what I mean by these personalities. I have talked about 3 distinct personalities: the instinct type, the heart type, and the thinking type. You're probably seeing a little bit of information on the screen right now, all right? And then you have the hybrids of those types, okay? Which you can have an instinct thinking type, or an instinct heart type, or a heart, thinking type, right? And then you can have them in reverse, because whichever thing comes first is a little bit more powerful than the thing that comes second. And most people are actually hybrids, where most people, it's very few people that are pure, but you will find that. Then on top of that, I've talked about being, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, all right? And those things matter as well. So even with me, I can easily come up with 12 distinct personalities. And for a lot of the men that are watching this particular video, one of the main reasons why a lot of men get caught up is because they're very attracted to instinct type women, all right? But then they're not ready to give instinct type women what they want. Instinct energy is generally associated with men. That's why there's so many videos out here that are saying that, all these women are acting masculine. But instinct energy is the energy of doing things. Okay, so when you see a woman in a movie, more than likely she's instinct energy. When you see a woman on YouTube, more than likely she's instinct energy. When you see a woman on one of these panels and talk shows and different things like that, whether she's Sherry or Oprah or anything like that, more than likely they are instinct energy. All right, these women tend to be some of the prettiest women. Why? Because they do all the glam all the time. All right. So a lot of men are very physically attracted to these women. All right. They speak well. They move well. All right. But that is only about 1/3 of the women in the world. And I always, try to encourage men, you kind of have to understand, okay, that you're attracted to that. I'm always telling men that women, their sexual energy, right? I'm always talking about that. You just talked about that in a couple of videos before, where I'm always saying a woman's sexual energy is like a drug. All right. Well, I'm always saying men is sort of like that as well. So a lot of men are very attracted to, okay, instinct energy women. That's all they're attracted to. And they're not attracted to the other two types. Okay, because thinking energy women don't talk like this. They don't talk like this at all. They're generally in their head. Okay, they're generally worried about every little thing, and it kind of frustrates them, because they're always in their head. And then emotional based women, which are heart based women, which she's acting like, a lot of, women are, emotional based women would not even listen to this at all. Because it's the emotion based woman that wants marriage to be about love and romance and different things like that. And she wants to go in blindly because she just doesn't want to think about it logically or what it can do for her in the future. All right. Because she's just all about love and caring and doing for other people. This is the woman that if she doesn't have children, she is basically the cat lady. Okay. Because she's going to have something to love in her life. All right. So I wanted to make sure I gave a little background before we get into this. Now, this woman is definitely instinct based. OK, and it's apparent in her energy. But as crazy as it sounds, I don't really disagree with her. And I want you, especially the guys, before y'all go down there in the comments, because I know some of y'all are ready to write, because I know some of y'all write in the comments before the video is over. But what I mean by this is a lot of men, and I think men have to own up to this. The same way I'm always telling women they need to take accountability for some of the things that they are doing wrong. Okay. And we all as men, that's all over the internet. They even have little jokes and skits that they've done where they're talking about women, y'all need to take accountability. Well, let's be real. Men have to take accountability too. And unfortunately, it's generally the Pookies and Raymonds. And again, if you're new to my channel, Raymond is just the quote unquote high value version of Pookie. Because there's plenty of men that make a lot of money, okay, that go around and they're attractive or whatever it is, and they're just either making babies or even if they don't make babies, they're just breaking hearts. All right, cheating on women left and right. Okay, so we have both in the world. So when you are dealing with a lot of these men, and I'll admit for the men out there that we are constantly telling women to avoid those two types, because those two types do more damage, and then the rest of us get looped in to those two types. So from a woman's perspective of a woman watching, you have to stay away from the Pookies and the Raymonds. However, okay, there are a lot of men, and I think this is where men have to take accountability, is that the other percentage of us, the 75% or 80% or whatever is left, okay, we have to make sure that when we do find a really great woman, that we lift her up. And a lot of men, I think some men don't know how to do it. I think some men get confused by it. I think some men are honestly insecure, so they don't know how to, lift up their woman without feeling as though she's going to leave him behind. And so there's a lot of people that feel like that they should oppress women, and by oppressing them, they feel like, okay, well, she's in her place, and it's going a little bit easier for me to now deal with her. But see, I would encourage you, especially from a godly perspective, not to be that way. See, I don't agree with the houses and the cars and, and the land and the properties and stuff like that. That's not the part of it that I'm talking about that I agree with. I think the essence of what she is saying, okay, is that a man needs to give to his wife. Okay, because the bottom line is what she's talking about, lands, properties, blah, blah, blah. That's like less than 10% of men. Even when you start to get into the $150,000 range, which is our new range that we generally talk about, and that's about 10% of the men in America, right? So when you're at that level, okay, those men might actually have some of those things. But even a man at $150,000 might not necessarily have a lot of properties. He might not necessarily have a lot of things that he can just up and give that way. So most men, 90% of men, will only be able to give of themselves. They will only be able to give support, caring, kindness, different things like that. And that's the part that I am saying, the energy of her saying that marriage should benefit the woman, I do agree with. Okay? And I think that 90% of men have to find a way to give to their woman beyond the basic non-negotiables. And see, a lot of men don't really have a problem with the non-negotiables if they're in that position. So, when you're talking about being a leader, when you're talking about, protecting and providing, you have a lot of men that will say, oh, I put a roof over your head, I put food in your belly, what else you need? And see, that's the basics. That's just the basics. Okay, but if a woman says that, hey, I want to crochet this huge quilt, or, I want to start this business, or maybe even I want to rescue 100 cats, maybe not necessarily to live in our house, but, she just wants to rescue them, then I believe that the man should support her. Okay, and that's really all this is. This is just saying that a woman has hopes, has dreams. She has things that she wants to do in her life. Okay, and then she's basically hoping that the man can actually come in and do it. All right. Now, for the extra 10% of men that this woman is talking about, that's where the big, issues online come from. All right. And that's the controversy that, if you came to this video, that's the controversy that we can talk about. Now, the likelihood that she will find a man that will actually come to the table with all those things is, like I said, just off the rip, is 1 out of 10. Because it's only about 10% of men that don't even have access. And then when you start talking about all the multiple things that she mentioned, you're probably talking about less than 5%, if not less than 3%. And at that point, she has to be the equivalent. And again, I don't think that a lot of women understand this, because some of the things that women think that is important to men is not. The non-negotiables pop up for both men and women on this channel all the time. And what I find is that, again, that the men get frustrated by some of the non-negotiables, and the women get frustrated by some of the non-negotiables. But no matter what the situation is, those are the non-negotiables. They're not going anywhere. So if a woman comes to me and, she is, doing the kindness part, and maybe she's attractive, but she's not supportive. Okay, and she might make $1 million, or she might have this thing going on over here, or she might be this famous celebrity or whatever. But then, when I start talking about my hopes and dreams and things that I'm working on, she doesn't want to support them. She doesn't want to help me and encourage into those things. Then in my world, she's lost. I'm like, okay, I'm moving on. I'm done. And even if I had $1 million, okay, and I was walking around and I could say I was a multimillionaire, it gets worse. Because at that point, I'm really going to want you to have all three. And I'm going to want you to have all three in buckets. And while I joke about my celebrity baby mama, her, all the time, and I use her as a reference, okay, to talk about the differences if I was to date up to a woman that makes all this money. But even if, like I said, I would run into, a woman like her, all that money that she has is not important to me. That would be important to a man that ain't got nothing, that is insecure. He's not the train that's going down the train tracks. He's just kind of sitting in the station. And because of that, that guy might be like, oh yeah, her, man, buy me this, buy me this, buy me this. I would be like, I don't need you to buy me anything. Okay. And so again, that's the difference. So when she's talking about marriage hurts women, marriage does not hurt women. Marriage hurts women when they don't marry well. That's when it hurts women. Okay, same thing, it hurts men when men don't marry well. The number one thing that we're all trying to do is to figure out, okay, who do we marry? But the thing that I've been trying to, even let you guys know, because like I say, I'm all about getting you married. I am your getting you married coach. That's why you see it on the screen. One of the things that I'm always encouraging you all to do is as you get married and once you go into marriage, you need to stay healthy, both mentally and emotionally and physically. Okay? That's why I always talk about sugar and how sugar causes depression, how alcohol causes depression, how all these things that you're putting in your body, all these refined carbs and stuff like that, all that stuff hurts you. It does. It causes cancer. It causes dementia. It causes all these issues. And you can say, well, I don't care, Jay. I'm going to do it. Do whatever you want to do. But just remember, 20 years from now, whenever you're sitting and you're going through something, these words are going to come to your mind. But see, the thing about it is when a woman or a man is in a relationship, both people should be, really caring about what the other person is going through. You should care that your person is starting to get depressed. You should care if your person is not being healthy. Okay, like I'm sorry, I'm pretty much done. Like if I run into a woman that will not exercise, I'm just like I don't even date her. I'm just gonna be real. We know too much about life now that none of us can hide behind and just throw our head in the sand and basically say I did not know. Okay, because exercise and lowering those carbs and eating your vegetables is going to give you the best healthy body. And most women understand that the literal hormones that are released, okay, send them through mood swings. That's why women literally every 4 to 5 days, some people say 7 days, go through different emotions. Why? Because their body is dropping these chemicals for certain things to happen, right? And the same thing happens when you eat food, okay? When you drink alcohol, when you don't exercise, or when you do. There's even a thing called a runner's high because the body loves exercise, okay? It might be hard in the beginning, but the body loves it and it'll start to crave it, okay, after a certain amount of time. But see, all these things matter. And see, these are gifts that people give to each other. It is the covenant of marriage blesses you by having a person that you can talk to, watch TV with, play games with, that can fight off loneliness. And loneliness is so strong that people literally kill themselves. They commit suicide because they're lonely. So we cannot act like, okay, that marriage is this thing. Oh, I can just hang out with my girlfriends. Oh, I can just do this. I can just do that. That is foolish. And it's foolish for men to say the same thing. Okay, the bottom line is God literally made us to be with each other. That's how we're made. I'm just going to be real with you guys for a second. Like I say, I just got to do it every once in a while, right? Every single time that I have been in my little budding relationships, and the closer I get to the woman, usually doesn't happen in the first 1 or 2 weeks, but generally about the third or fourth week when we're spending more time together, I'm not even gonna lie, I sleep better. I'm more relaxed. I have less anxiety. It's not so much that I have it where I can't go through my life. I don't want people to think that, but it's nothing for me to sleep 5 hours and get up and then can't go back to sleep. But when I'm dating someone, I sleep 8 hours. Easy. And these women aren't even married to me. These women we ain't doing nothing. They not staying over. It's just something about having that connection that just releases hormones in my brain. I wish I could, I understood it. I've tried over-the-counter, vitamins and different things like that. I even read this one thing that was saying that cherry juice will help you to sleep. I've tried all these different things, but it's like as soon as I'm in a woman's presence and I become comfortable with that woman, immediately all those things are solved. And what I've learned by talking to other women, like I said, remember, I have a group of people, literally, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of women at this point. When I've talked to women about it, a lot of them will say, yeah, they can feel the difference. There's just something about their life that just seems easier. And it's not happiness. We're not talking about happiness here. We're talking about it's almost a calming effect, right? And so people got to get out of what can you do for me? You're always going to use me and abuse me. Because while I do agree with this lady that a lot of men out there abuse, okay, and I'm not saying that they don't, and I still think most of them is going to be Pookie and Raymond. Okay, I think Pookie and Raymond is most of the offenders. But I do think the average man, could probably do a teeny tiny bit better. I am going to say that, she is, like I said, living in that same mindset that unfortunately social media and honestly media period has been pushing onto women for the last 20 to 30 years. Is this concept that there's all these supermen out here. They have all this money, they have all this power, that all they do is use women, okay, and they just abuse them. And in reality, okay, that's not true. In reality, most men are just trying to have a relationship. They're trying to do the best that they can, okay, and they don't want to hurt a woman. A woman might get hurt by some of the things that they do, but, they ain't trying to hurt nobody. And while, like I said, the essence of giving, I am with her. But the essence of giving properties and this and that and the third is not going to happen. It's the same way I saw this one guy. I didn't even do a video on it because it was to me, it was ridiculous. But it was this guy, I think he was Saudi Arabia or someplace like that. And he was talking about how his wife doesn't have to work, how, he bought her this car and it was like a Range Rover, Land Rover, something like that, $80,000 car, and how he gives her every month, he gives her like $20,000 allowance that she can do whatever it is she wants to do. And I'm like, dude, you're a multimillionaire. Of course you can do that. Okay, most of us are not multimillionaires. Okay, and that's just the reality. The average salary of a man in America is right around $50,000. Okay. It's very important, again, for black women, especially black women, to understand that. Okay, women just have to understand that the average man is $50,000. And while I do encourage men to get their money up, to do better, to push harder, at the end of the day, okay, $50,000, okay, and another person making $50,000, you can build a life on that. Okay, you truly can. Okay, and this whole concept that every single man is going to do you wrong and all this other kind of stuff, it's just annoying. I mean, honestly, because again, if you're going after Raymond, okay, and a lot of these women, they want Raymond. They want, like I said, that 6-figure, 6 foot tall, good looking black man or white man or Asian man or whatever it is that, is generous and all this other kind of stuff. I'm just telling you, like I said, he's less than 10%. 9 times out of 10, he's going to run through you. He's going to put a lot of emotional baggage on you, and it's actually going to hurt you for the really good man that can come. But it doesn't mean that a guy that makes money can't be a good guy. It doesn't mean that a guy that's 6 foot tall can't be a good guy. It just means that the essence of what you're looking for is already wrong. The essence of what you're looking for should be a really great friend, someone who loves you, someone who cares about you. And then these men, I will say, they need to have the energy of that protector, provider, leader. It doesn't necessarily mean they have it yet. It doesn't necessarily mean they're ever going to have it. But it just needs to have, the energy does need to be upon them. All right. And again, if you're a woman and you can't figure that out, then I would say that you have some studying to do and some learning to do to understand how that feels in a man. And you'll be surprised what it'll feel like and where you'll find it. Anywho, I thought this one was interesting. And a lot of guys, I know when y'all first heard her, you were upset, and I saw it last night and I said I was going to do a video. So I had some time to marinate over what she is saying. And that's why I can say, in essence of her saying that we need men that are willing to support us and give to us and not just want a quick and easy marriage where they don't have to do anything. That is the part that I'm agreeing with. Okay, but I do disagree with all the properties and stuff like that. But I do think if you're a millionaire and you can do it, then do it. But if you can't do that, then that's not, what I would say. Anyway, please like, please subscribe. Remember, on Thursday, every other Thursday, we do Thursday Talks. So come out and hang out for that. Anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.